Hello, everybody. This is Mike History 2, and we are finally going to conclude the top 10 worst people in history series by doing number one, Adolf Hitler. Now, this won't come as a surprise to many, but I'm sure it will come as a surprise to some of you because I remember the last time I did this like a year ago. A lot of people were like, "No, lots these other people were worse." I'm gonna talk more about why I put him number one, like at the end, because I won't do all of Hitler in one video; it'll be too long. But yeah, just informing you about that. So let's get to the video. Adolf Hitler was born on April 20th, 1889, in Braunau am Inn in Austria to Alois Hitler and his third wife, Clara Polos. I can't pronounce any of these things well. When Hitler was 3, the family moved to Passau, Bavaria. The family returned to Austria and settled in Leonding in 1894, and in June 1895, Alois retired to Hafeld near Lambach. Hitler attended a school in nearby Fischelham. The move to Hafeld coincided with the beginning of intense father-son conflicts, caused by Hitler's refusal to conform to the strict discipline of his school. His father beat him, although his mother tried to protect him. Alois Hitler's farming efforts at Hafeld ended in failure, and in 1897 the family moved to Lambach. Hitler was deeply affected by the death of his younger brother Edmund, who died in 1900 from measles. Hitler changed from a confident, outgoing, conscientious student to a depressed, detached boy who constantly fought with his father and teachers. Alois had made a successful career in the Customs Bureau and wanted his son to follow in his footsteps. Ignoring his son's desire to attend a classical high school and become an artist, Alois sent Hitler to the Realschule in Linz in September 1900. Hitler rebelled against this decision and did poorly in school on purpose, hoping that once his father saw what little progress he was making at the technical school, he would let him devote himself to his dream. Like many Austrian Germans, Hitler began to develop German nationalist ideas from a young age. He expressed loyalty only to the German Empire, hating the declining Austria and its rule over an ethnically diverse empire. Hitler and his friends used the greeting Heil and sang the German national anthem instead of the Austrian one. Well, something started early. After Alois's sudden death on January 3, 1903, Hitler's performance at school deteriorated and his mother allowed him to leave. He enrolled at the Realschule in Steyr in September 1904, where his behavior and performance improved. In 1905, after passing a repeat of the final exam, Hitler left the school without any ambitions for further education or clear plans for a career. In 1907, Hitler left Linz to live and study art in Vienna, financed by orphans' benefits and support from his mother. He applied for admission to the Academy of Fine Arts Vienna, but was rejected twice. On December 21, 1907, his mother died of breast cancer at the age of 47. In 1909, Hitler ran out of money and was forced to live a bohemian life in homeless shelters and a men's dormitory. He earned money as a casual laborer and by painting and selling watercolors of Vienna sights. During his time in Vienna, he pursued a growing passion for two interests, architecture and music. It was here that Hitler first became exposed to racist rhetoric. Populists such as Mayor Karl Lueger exploited the climate of anti-Semitism and occasionally espoused German nationalist notions for political effect. German nationalism had a particularly widespread following in the Mariahilf district where Hitler lived. Georg Ritter von Schonerer became a major influence on Hitler. He also developed an admiration for Martin Luther. Hitler read local newspapers such as Deutsches Volksblatt that fanned prejudice and played on Christian fears of being swamped by an influx of Eastern European Jews. He read newspapers and pamphlets that published the thoughts of philosophers and theoreticians such as Houston Stewart Chamberlain, Charles Darwin, Friedrich Nietzsche, Gustave Le Bon, and Arthur Schopenhauer. Hitler received the final part of his father's estate in May 1913 and moved to Munich, Bavaria. Hitler was called up for conscription in the Austrian army, so he went to Salzburg on February 5, 1914 for medical assessment. After he was deemed by the medical examiners as unfit for service, he returned to Munich. Hitler later claimed that he did not wish to serve Austria because of the mixture of races in its armies and his belief that the collapse of Austria was imminent. In August 1914, at the outbreak of World War I, Hitler was living in Munich and voluntarily enlisted in the Bavarian army. He served as a dispatch runner on the Western Front in France and Belgium, spent nearly half his time at the regimental headquarters in Foulon-en-Wep, well behind the front lines. He was present at the First Battle of Ypres, the Battle of the Somme, the Battle of Arras, and the Battle of Passchendaele, and was wounded at the Somme. He was decorated for bravery, receiving the Iron Cross Second Class in 1914. On a recommendation by Lieutenant Hugo Gutmann, Hitler's Jewish superior, he received the Iron Cross, First Class, on August 4, 1918, a decoration rarely awarded to one of Hitler's Gefreiter ranks. He received the Black Wound Badge on May 18, 1918. During his service at headquarters, Hitler pursued his artwork, drawing cartoons and instructions for an army newspaper. During the Battle of the Somme in October 1916, he was wounded in the left thigh when a shell exploded in the dispatch runner's dugout. Hitler spent almost 2 months in hospital at Belitz, returning to his regiment on March 5, 1917. On October 15, 1918, he was temporarily blinded in a mustard gas attack and was hospitalized in Pasewalk. While there, Hitler learned of the German Empire's defeat. Hitler described the war as the greatest of all experiences and was praised by his commanding officers for his bravery. His wartime experience reinforced his German patriotism, and he was shocked by the German Empire's loss in November 1918. His bitterness over the collapse of the war effort began to shape his ideology. Like other German nationalists, he believed the stab in the back myth, which claimed that the German army, undefeated in the field, had been stabbed in the back on the home front by civilian leaders, Jews, communists, and those who would sign the armistice that ended the fighting. The Treaty of Versailles said that Germany must give up a lot of its territory and demilitarize the Rhineland. The treaty imposed economic sanctions and levied heavy reparations on the country. Many Germans saw the treaty as an unjust humiliation, and they especially objected to Article 231, which they interpreted as declaring the German Empire responsible for the war. After World War I, Hitler returned to Munich. Without formal education or career prospects, he remained in the army. In July 1919, he was appointed intelligence agent of a reconnaissance unit of the army, assigned to influence other soldiers and to infiltrate the German Workers' Party. At a German Workers' Party meeting on September 12, 1919, party chairman Anton Drexler was impressed with Hitler's speech-making skills, and he gave him a copy of his pamphlet, My Political Awakening, which contained anti-Semitic, nationalist, anti-capitalist, and anti-communist ideas. Around this time, Hitler made his earliest known recorded statement about the Jews in a letter dated September 16, 1919, to Adolf Gemlich about the Jewish question. In the letter, Hitler argues that the aim of the government must be the removal of the Jews altogether. At the German Workers' Party, Hitler met Dietrich Eckart, one of the party's founders. Eckart became Hitler's mentor, exchanging ideas with him and introducing him to a wide range of Munich society. To increase its appeal, the German Workers' Party changed its name to the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or as we now know it, the Nazi Party. Hitler designed the party's banner of a swastika in a white circle on a red background. Hitler left the army on March 31, 1920, and began working full-time for the Nazi Party. The party headquarters was in Munich, a hotbed of anti-government German nationalists determined to crush communism and undermine the government. February 1921, already highly effective at crowd manipulation, he spoke to a crowd of over 6,000. To publicize the meeting, party supporters drove around Munich waving swastika flags and distributing leaflets. Hitler soon gained notoriety for his rowdy polemic speeches against the Treaty of Versailles, rival politicians, and especially against communists and Jews. In June 1921, while Hitler and Eckart were on a fundraising trip to Berlin, a mutiny broke out within the Nazi Party in Munich. Members of its executive committee wanted to merge with the rival German Socialist Party. Hitler returned to Munich on July 11th and angrily tendered his resignation. The committee members realized that the resignation of their leading public figure and speaker would mean the end of the party. Hitler announced he would rejoin on the condition that he would replace Drexler as party chairman, and that the party headquarters would remain in Munich. The committee agreed, and he rejoined the party on July 26th. Hitler continued to face some opposition within the Nazi Party. Opponents of Hitler in the leadership had Hermann Esser expelled from the party, and they printed 3,000 copies of a pamphlet attacking Hitler as a traitor to the party. Following days, Hitler spoke to several packed houses and defended himself and Esser. His strategy proved successful, and at a special Party Congress on July 29th, he was granted absolute powers as party chairman. Hitler's beer hall speeches began attracting regular audiences. He became good at using populist themes such as scapegoats who were blamed for his listeners' economic hardships. Early followers included Rudolf Rudolf Hess, former Air Force ace Hermann Goering, and Army Captain Ernst Röhm. Röhm became head of the Nazis' paramilitary organization, the Sturmabteilung, which protected meetings and attacked political opponents. A critical influence on Hitler's thinking during this period was the Aufbauvereinigung, a conspiracy group of white Russian exiles and early National Socialists. The group, financed with funds channeled from wealthy industrialists, introduced Hitler to the idea of a Jewish conspiracy linking international finance and communism. The program of the Nazi Party was laid out in their 25-point program on February 24, 1920. This included pan-Germanism, ultranationalism, opposition to the Treaty of Versailles, distrust of capitalism, as well as some socialist ideas. For Hitler, though, the most important aspect of it was its strong anti-Semitic stance. He also perceived the program as primarily a basis for propaganda and for attracting people to the party. In 1923, Hitler enlisted the help of World War I General Erich Ludendorff for an attempted coup known as the Beer Hall Putsch. The Nazi Party used Italian fascism as a model for their appearance and policies. Hitler wanted to copy Benito Mussolini's March on Rome of 1922 by staging his own coup in Bavaria, to be followed by a challenge to the government in Berlin. Hitler and Ludendorff sought the support of State Commissioner Gustav Ritter von Kahr, Bavaria's ruler. However, Kahr, along with Police Chief Hans Ritter von Seisser and General Otto von Lossow, wanted to install a national dictatorship without Hitler. On November 8, 1923, Hitler and the Sturmabteilung stormed a public meeting of 3,000 people organized by Kahr in the Burger Braukeller, a beer hall in Munich. Interrupting Kahr's speech, he announced that the National Revolution had begun and declared the formation of a new government with Ludendorff. Retiring to a back room, Hitler, with handgun drawn, demanded and got the support of Kahr, Seisser, and Lossow. Hitler's forces initially succeeded in occupying the local army and police headquarters, but Kahr and his cohorts quickly withdrew their support. Neither the army nor the state police joined forces with Hitler. The next day, Hitler and his followers marched from the beer hall to the Bavarian War Ministry to overthrow the Bavarian government, but police dispersed them. 16 Nazi Party members and 4 police officers were killed in the failed coup. Hitler fled to the home of Ernst Hanfstaengl. He was depressed but calm when arrested on November 11, 1923 for high treason. His trial before the People's Court in Munich began in February 1924, and Alfred Rosenberg became temporary leader of the Nazi Party. On April 1st, Hitler was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment at Landsberg prison. Pardoned by the Bavarian Supreme Court, he was released from jail on December 20th, 1924, after only 1 year. While at Landsberg, Hitler dictated most of the first volume of Mein Kampf to his deputy, Rudolf Hess. The book, dedicated to Dietrich Eckart, was an autobiography and exposition of his ideology. The book laid out Hitler's plans for transforming German society into one based on race. Shortly before Hitler was eligible for parole, the Bavarian government attempted to have him deported back to Austria. The Austrian federal chancellor rejected the request on the grounds that his service in the Bavarian army made his Austrian citizenship worthless. In response, Hitler formally renounced his Austrian citizenship on April 7, 1925.